Well, a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Viking.TV. My name is Neil, and I'm based in Viking's London office, where I've worked for the past 13 years. Well, I say very good evening. It's 7 p.m. in London, and it's raining outside. So wherever you are in the world, welcome, and hopefully the weather is better where you are versus where I am at the moment. We've got Paul behind the scenes, and we've got Bree, who's over in our Los Angeles office, that's going to be around for questions and answers later. So keep them coming in, and Bree will ask them after the presentation, and I'll do my best to answer them. But this evening, I'm absolutely thrilled to be talking about our magnificent Mekong itinerary, and especially as it's on board our brand new ship, the Viking Saigon. So sit back, relax, and let's discover Asia on the magnificent Mekong.
Join Viking for 15 days in exotic Southeast Asia, where you'll explore the heart of Vietnam and Cambodia, its enduring cultures and traditions, lands linked throughout time by the immense Mekong River. Your fascinating journey begins with a 2-night stay in Hanoi, former capital of French Indochina. Set your sights on the historic 36 streets of Hanoi's Old Quarter. Enjoy the grounds of the Ho Chi Minh Memorial and pause to reflect at the infamous Hanoi Hilton. Then it's on to Cambodia for an inspiring immersion into its temples and monuments. Siem Reap is your gateway to captivating Angkor Wat. This renowned UNESCO World Heritage Site was carved from the jungle in the 12th century AD. Up next, Kampong Cham, a region with a rich architectural heritage that includes 200 temples, some predating the Khmer Empire. And in Phnom Penh, where the Mekong and Tonle Sap rivers meet, set off on cyclos to enjoy this fascinating city, including the ornate royal palace, followed by a sobering look at the killing fields of Chuang Ek. As the magnificent Mekong River unfolds before you, your Viking ship continues on to Vietnam and the expansive Mekong Delta. At Tan Chau, you can get a taste of rural life as it has been lived for ages. And venture out to Vinh Hoa, the evergreen island, for a glimpse at traditional Vietnamese farming methods. In Sa Dec, the Mekong's intriguing backwaters and rivulets lead to delightful floating markets, where all manner of the earth's bounty is sold. Vibrant Ho Chi Minh City, the former Saigon, follows, where beautifully restored French colonial architecture shares the skyline with gleaming new skyscrapers in this emerging metropolis. A 2-night stay gives you plenty of time to enjoy its quaint alleyways, tasty local dishes, and historic sites, such as the War Remnants Museum and the Reunification Palace. This vibrant city is an ideal place to conclude your unforgettable exploration of the magnificent Mekong.
The Mekong River stretches from the Tibetan highlands, finally reaching the South China Sea, flowing through China, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam, covering over 4,000 kilometres. And it's the 7th longest river in the world, the longest being the Nile, stretching over 6,500 kilometres. The Mekong really is a working river and can produce over 4 million tonnes of fish per year, making it the world's most productive river. Now, the Mekong also acts as a natural border between Laos, Myanmar and Thailand, and it's in an area called the Golden Triangle. Of course, the Mekong is home to many of Southeast Asia's largest cities, including Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam and Phnom Penh in Cambodia, 2 of the fascinating cities that you'll visit on this 15-day journey. So let's have a look at the magnificent Mekong cruise and stay itinerary. Your 15-day journey includes 7 hotel night stays, along with your 7-night river cruise, visits 2 countries, and you'll also have 16 guided tours included. All meals on board the ship, plus breakfasts and dinners included when you're on the land section of the journey. And of course, you'll have your Viking guide throughout from start to finish to answer any questions that you might have and make sure you get the best out of all that's on offer. As this journey operates in either direction, you may be wondering where am I best to start? Do I start in the south and work my way north, or travel north and work my way south? Well, the truthful answer is there's no real difference as you get all the same inclusions. However, if you travel in the Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh direction, which is the direction we'll be talking about today, you have 5 hotel nights at the start of the journey. 2 in Hanoi, Vietnam. You then cross the border into Siem Reap, Cambodia for 3 nights. Then staying in Cambodia, you join your ship in Kampong Cham, where you'll spend 7 nights on board your ship. You then cross back over to Vietnam, spending 2 nights in Ho Chi Minh City, whereas in the other direction, the bulk of your hotel stays are at the end of your trip rather than the beginning, and that's the only real difference. If it was pushed to my preference, I would probably say the one I'm describing, Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh, is you have the busy exploration days at the very start of the cruise, then the relaxation of the ship for the week. However, this is by no means a deal breaker, and it's only my personal preference. So if you've travelled with Viking before, you'll know that we really have the best tour guides, and this cruise is no exception. Our Viking tour guides, they're experienced and knowledgeable, and they know the area you're visiting inside out. They've strong connections in the local area and are willing to open up and share their personal experiences of life in this part of the world. Now remember, you have 16 guided tours included, so we want you to make sure that you come away with as much knowledge and insight to this part of Southeast Asia as possible. Now, I'll tell you more about a brand new ship on the Mekong later on, which we're all very excited about. But think about this itinerary as being part of an exclusive club, as we only have 80 guests experiencing this journey at any one time. Before looking at each day in more detail, you can opt for an extension to experience more of Southeast Asia, and these are available whatever direction of travel you choose. Around a 3-hour drive from Hanoi is Halong Bay, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, when I first went to Halong Bay back in 1993, it took a lot longer than 3 hours to get there, believe me, it was more like 6. But it shows how much the infrastructure has changed over the years. Halong Bay is breathtaking. You have these emerald waters and limestone islands to discover. And as part of the tour, you go on a junk to get up close and personal and weave in and out of these islands. The extension includes 1 night in Hanoi, along with 1 night in Halong Bay. Another option and a really good choice to think about if you want to break your journey up is in Thailand, the land of smiles and the capital city, Bangkok. I really love Bangkok. You have the hustle and bustle of the Chao Phraya River running right through the heart of the city, and it's a real working river. You can discover the wats or temples, and of course the food. Definitely try tom yum soup when you're in Bangkok. Now, the extension includes a 3-night hotel stay. You'll have your 2 guided tours included. And remember, you have all the services of the Viking host to make recommendations for any independent travel. Before making a decision on any of the optional extensions available to you, ask yourself, how often will I be in this part of the world? If you're a regular traveller to Asia, you may be happy to just do the cruise itinerary. But if you think, actually, I want to see everything else that's on offer and make the most of it, then the extensions need to be on your tick list of must-dos. Let's look at the itinerary map that outlines how you'll travel along the scenic Mekong River and experience the history, culture and cuisine of Vietnam and Cambodia. We begin our journey in Hanoi, Vietnam, and here you'll have a 2-night hotel stay. You'll then take a short afternoon flight over to Siem Reap in Cambodia, where you'll spend 3 nights in a hotel. Your ship will be waiting for you in Kampong Cham, Cambodia, where you'll embark and begin your sailing to Phnom Penh. Your sailing concludes in Ho Chi Minh City, and here you'll have 3 days in a centrally located hotel. So when's the best time to go? Well, we operate on the Mekong from August through to March, and we're currently on sale right through to 2024. Now, the main thing to bear in mind, especially in Vietnam, is the climate can be different in the north, so in the Hanoi area, compared to the south in and around Ho Chi Minh City. In the north, September to October, it's hot and can be higher humidity, so you may get more rainfall, but generally these are short, sharp showers. November to April can be slightly cooler, but still around 23 degrees centigrade, so around 76 degrees Fahrenheit. In the south, so in the Ho Chi Minh area, it's hot and dry November to April, with temperatures around 30 degrees plus, so around 90 degrees Fahrenheit, with more rain falling between September and October, but it still remains very warm. In Cambodia, November to April is hot and has very little rainfall. Now, when I travel to Cambodia, it's generally in August, and I get rain, but again, it's short, sharp showers, but still very warm. Really, whenever you choose to travel, pack lightweight clothes, a sun hat, sunglasses, and a waterproof and high protection sunscreen. I love the sun, but it doesn't always love me, unfortunately. For currency, credit cards in the biggest cities are widely accepted and ATMs are plentiful. However, take some US dollars for use in local shops or markets, and these should be clean, crisp, small dollar bills. Ones, fives, tens, and 20s are really the best denominations to take. Day one arrives and welcome to Hanoi, where the journey begins. Now remember, if you've arranged air through Viking, we'll transfer you from the airport to your hotel. The hotels we use throughout, they're all international standard and offer first-class facilities. And the hotels we use, although they're subject to change and not confirmed until nearer departure, they're always in a very central location. In Hanoi, our hotel is situated in between the old town and the new business district. You'll notice real differences in the places we visit on this cruise. Hanoi has an old-style French colonial feel to it, and you have these lakes within the city which really open it up. It also has a slightly calmer feel than, say, the hustle and bustle of Ho Chi Minh City. After a good night's sleep, we're on day two, and after breakfast at your hotel, you'll take a tour of this unique 1,000-year-old Asian capital, where old and new combine in a lush setting of parks and lakes. The city's changed massively over the years, with many international businesses and shopping centres now here, but you'll also have the old town markets to snap up a bargain. Our included tour is a full-day excursion of historic Hanoi. On this tour, you'll visit the Ho Chi Minh Memorial Complex, which includes the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum, the museum, and the simple stilt house that was the leader's dwelling from 1948 until his death in 1969. Moving on, you'll visit the peaceful walled courtyards and graceful gateways of the Temple of Literature. The lunch today you can enjoy independently from any local or international restaurant. And afterwards, it's off to visit the Museum of Ethnology, which chronicles the nation's ethnic diversity. We'll continue on to the iconic One Pillar Pagoda, which is an 11th century monument rebuilt after the French destroyed it in 1954, passing beautiful colonial landmarks such as the Magnificent Opera House and St. Joseph's Cathedral. The excursion concludes with a visit to Wa La Prison, the notorious Hanoi Hilton, where American prisoners of war were held captive during the Vietnam War. You'll have the afternoon to relax before dining at a local restaurant. It's our third and final day in Hanoi, and we have an excursion to explore Hanoi's old quarter by green electric car. Spend time relaxing or go for a wander independently to enjoy your last few hours of this fascinating city. This afternoon, we take the short flight of around 1 hour 45 minutes to Siem Reap in Cambodia for the second leg of this Mekong adventure. It's only around a 25-minute drive to the hotel, where you'll have a 3-night stay. And after check-in, your dinner this evening is accompanied by a traditional Cambodian Apsara dance show. I absolutely love visiting Asia, but Siem Reap has got to be one of my favourite places to visit, and I try and head back there when I can and when time and money permits. It's a fairly compact city and it's easy to wander around the town on foot or by tuk-tuk, the 3-wheeled motorised vehicles that weave in and out of the traffic. You've got lots of restaurants, cafes and bars in Siem Reap, and I really urge you to explore to get a true sense of all the city has to offer. Within the main cities, you can get international cuisine if that's your preference, but the local food is a must. And in Cambodia, you've got to try fish amok. Now, the best way to describe it is like a coconut fish stew, generally served on a banana leaf. And the last time I was over in Siem Reap, I tried my hand at a cooking school. And unfortunately, my efforts weren't as good as the image that you'll see on the screen now. I've never found Cambodian food overly spicy, but if you do like the food spicier, you can always request this. Now, I probably never described fish amok in the best way there, so let's have a look at some other flavours of the Mekong.
Mornings in Vietnam are an absolute feast for the senses. Because that's when the markets are in full bloom. Exploring these bustling waterways with my dearest friend Chi, it's easy to see the Vietnamese treasure fresh food. These colourful markets bring up daily along rivers across the country. And of course on neighbourhood streets. Vietnamese cuisine is incredibly diverse, and one of my favourites comes in a most unusual wrapping. The locals call it banh chan. Also known as rice paper, it's made by repeatedly feeding rice through a stone grinder until it becomes liquid. This batter is then spread evenly over a heated surface, where it's steamed for about a minute. The result is what appears to be an impossibly thin, yet surprisingly strong wrapper. One that opens up a world of yummy possibilities. To learn more about the banh chan, Chi and I stopped in at Laura de Nam Ki, where owner and food author Madame Thuy walked us through the basics of using rice paper to create fresh spring rolls. A delicious, easy dish to make.
Những cái nguyên liệu thì cũng rất là gần gũi, bánh tráng, rồi có thịt heo luộc, tôm luộc, các cái loại rau và bún.
We have rice paper, and we have rice noodles and shrimp, and
that looks like belly of pork.
yes,
Norwegian Christmas dinner.
The dried rice paper we saw earlier became the base for our spring rolls. With just a little water, it quickly becomes flexible and ready to use.
So now my stiff rice paper is really soft.
yes.
Sau khi bánh tráng của mình mềm rồi thì bắt đầu mình để tôm xuống dưới.
The prawn first.
And it's important to put the prawns first
Yes.
because they're on top, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Not quite in the middle, but a little closer to one edge.
Xong sau đó là tới thịt.
Yeah.
And we have pork belly next.
Pork belly, yeah. On top of the shrimp.
Sau đó thì ta sẽ cho bún lên trên cái thịt. Rồi tới rau.
Rice noodle.
Rice noodles,
Penh.
right? So rice paper and rice noodles. And then we put some vegetables.
Yes.
We're using salad. This is salad. And we have Vietnamese basil.
Yes.
And this?
Cái đó một chút nữa.
No,
No, later.
later.
Yes.
Once you have a nice selection of fresh ingredients, slowly stretch and roll the rice paper, using your fingers to tuck in any stray items as you move.
Có chặt không chị?
Hơi chặt.
Yeah,
So
right.
the rice paper has become almost elastic.
Nữa
Yes.
thôi. Xong sau đó thì
Fold it to the end, just halfway.
It's like wrapping a Christmas present.
đây cuốn hai đầu này lại. Xong thì sau đó thì mới để cái này vào đây để cho nó lòi ra cho nó đẹp á.
This is a chive,
That's a chive, yeah.
and then we put it here.
Since the rice paper is translucent, both careful rolling and placement of the ingredients are required to create a beautiful spring roll.
You see that if we would like to have the shrimp in this perfect distance, then we have to place them.
On the grid, because
Yes,
the rice paper
yes.
has a kind of a
Yeah.
grid. Yeah. Not bad for my first spring roll.
Congratulations, it's perfect.
Can I see yours? Who's the expert?
Yes.
And who's the novice? I did my shrimp upside down.
Để tôm ngược, không thấy cái màu đỏ. Normally, we have spring roll dipped in this sauce, soybean.
Cái sốt này làm từ tương và bơ đậu phộng.
It's a bean and peanut butter.
Peanut butter, yeah, because that's the one I'm used to. I can
Yes.
eat that with a spoon.
You can also use the fish sauce.
Yeah.
It's a carrot.
Carrots, yeah,
And-
sort of pickled carrots.
Yes,
or,
pickled carrots.
Yeah. Thank you. Excellent. They are delicious. I could eat these for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, every day, all day. So, how long has Madame Thuy been making food, and did she learn from her mother and from her grandmother, or?
She had been cooking since she was 9 years old.
And do most girls in Vietnam know how to make spring rolls?
Tất cả những phụ nữ, đàn bà con gái Việt Nam mình đều biết cái cúng.
Chắc chắn rồi, ai cũng sẽ biết.
And how about the boys?
Ông biết không?
Chị nghĩ là biết, tại vì rất là dễ làm.
Yeah, even the American are so easy to make it.
Our second roll was a fusion of Norwegian and Vietnamese ingredients, as we topped the rice paper with salmon, vegetables, and a type of rice noodle I'd never seen.
This is rice noodle too, but we have many kind of rice noodles. Yes.
It's like rice noodle pancake.
Yeah.
And then we put some vegetables.
Yes.
And then the fillet of salmon. It's fried, is it? It's
Yes,
already
it's fried with fresh meat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that mint?
Yes, it's mint.
That makes it fresh.
Yes.
Áp chả sơ qua, sau đó thì chúng ta có thể ngâm một chút với cái hỗn hợp giấm balsamic. Cái món ăn này nó rất là healthy, tốt cho sức khỏe, là bởi vì chúng ta có rất là nhiều rau, rồi cá hồi và một chút tinh bột từ cái bánh hỏi này.
Yeah, this is very healthy because we have a lot of vegetables, salmon, and you see a little bit of rice.
You know, one could really have fun experimenting with different ingredients. You know, you could put almost anything inside.
Yes,
like
yes.
that. Yeah. It's really Vietnamese fast food.
Yes.
That's the finished.
Yeah.
Can we try that?
Would you like-
Excellent. It's a totally different flavor. It's delicious. So I have eaten spring rolls since I've known Chi, and that's more than 25 years, and I never learned how to make them. So I have to thank you for teaching me how to make spring rolls.
Food is one of the best ways I've found to explore another culture and its people. I hope you'll do as I did in Vietnam or at home and enjoy some laughs attempting to make Vietnamese spring rolls yourself.
Day 4 arrives and Siem Reap awaits, the gateway to Angkor, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most important archaeological sites in the world. Begin your day with a visit to one of Angkor's largest Khmer temples, Angkor Wat. Built in the 12th century AD, it is one of the most spectacular sites in Southeast Asia. You can get some amazing sunrises over Angkor, and I remember getting up at 4 a.m. to get the perfect spot to get the perfect sunrise, as did half of Siem Reap, but it was still breathtaking. In the afternoon, spend time exploring the fortified city of Angkor Thom, which houses several of Angkor's most popular attractions, such as the Terrace of the Elephants. And in the evening, you'll dine in a local restaurant. As I mentioned previously, we use international standard hotels throughout, and Siem Reap is no exception. Currently, we use the Sofitel Angkor Hotel, which is situated between the city of Siem Reap and Angkor Wat. Now, the Sofitel has vast landscape gardens and a really large pool, so it's perfect for relaxing after a busy day exploring the area. And if you wish to head into Siem Reap from the hotel, you can do this on tuk-tuk, and it will cost around $2 to $3. This itinerary is fully escorted from the minute you arrive until the minute you leave, and our tours have been tailor-made to ensure you get the best that this region has to offer. However, if you want to explore on your own during your free time, you can do this, and we're with you every step of the way to help guide and assist you. We're on day 5 in Siem Reap, and today you have 3 different included tours to choose from. You may visit Ta Prohm, one of the most popular of the temples of Angkor, continue on to the spectacular 10th century Hindu temple at Bante Shree, or Citadel of Women, to see magnificent carvings of Shiva and Vishnu. Now, Bante Shree was always one of my favourite temples to visit. I can't really describe why, but it's the feeling that you get when you're wandering around. At Viking, we try to give something back to the communities we visit, and this afternoon you'll have the option to stop by an elementary school we sponsor, which is around 45 minutes from Siem Reap. You get to know a little about these local children and their lessons. You can talk with the teachers, and learn about the contribution that Viking scholarship has made to the school and its community. This evening and your last night in Siem Reap, enjoy dinner in a local restaurant, followed by a Cambodian circus show. Now, the performance blends theatre, music, dance, acrobatics, juggling, and aerial acts that'll help see you off in style. It's nearly time to board your ship on day 6, the Viking Saigon, and after breakfast we head to Kampong Cham. And Kampong Cham is approximately 259 kilometres, or a 4-hour drive from Siem Reap. And although you may think it's a longish drive, it gives you the perfect opportunity to sit back, relax, and take in the Cambodian countryside. We head to Kampong Cham via the provincial capital of Kampong Thom, which is an important area for fishing and agriculture. It also has a rich archaeological heritage with 200 temples, some of which predate the Khmer Empire. This afternoon, we'll aboard your waiting ship, the brand new Viking Saigon. And once you've settled in, you'll meet the ship's officers and crew over a welcome cocktail. You may choose to join both of our included tours today, day 7. This morning, visit the twin holy mountains of Phnom Pro and Phnom Phray, where there are many temples and pagodas that are still used during traditional Khmer festivals. And this afternoon, the ship sets sail towards a silk weaving village, where you can take a walk through the village of Chong Ko and admire the rich local fabrics. This evening, aboard your ship, you'll enjoy a welcome reception from the crew. Our brand new ship, the Viking Saigon, entered service in early 2022, so you're still amongst the first guests to experience this stunning ship. So your home from home is set over 3 decks and carries 80 guests. Our Explorer Society members, so guests that have travelled with us previously, will notice the similarities of our longships with the cool Scandinavian design intertwined with local touches. And it's great to get back to those familiar surroundings that you may have experienced on our other ships. These images give you a brilliant idea of the look and feel of the new ship. And you can see we have a lot of deck space up on deck 3. That's where the sky bar is situated. There's a small pool as well as a gym and spa. And our lounge is found on deck 2 and restaurant on deck 1. We have a range of staterooms, all with French balcony or veranda, as well as 2 Explorer suites with a large terrace. Now, the slide that you see now is the French balcony stateroom with floor-to-ceiling sliding doors, and it's similar to that which you may have stayed in on our Viking longships in Europe. This is our veranda stateroom, so it's very similar in style to the French balconies, but you've got a full veranda. Remember though, it doesn't matter which side of the ship that you're on, the cruise is all about discovering the villages and local life along the banks of the river. We've got lots of open deck space on board, and that's where you'll want to spend the majority of your time, seeing what's happening on either side of the river. Sailing on today to the journey, welcome to Cambodia's capital, Phnom Penh, and its picturesque waterfront. You'll notice a difference between Siem Reap, which is a gentler pace of life, versus Phnom Penh, which offers more hustle and bustle. After breakfast, we'll explore the city in a cyclo, which is a 3-wheeled bicycle rickshaw. You must take advantage of this. It's a speedy way to get around the city, plus it's a key source of income for many Cambodians. You'll see the magnificent royal palace with its spectacular silver pagoda, which was built in the 19th century by the French, but inspired by the centuries-old architecture of the Khmer. You'll then take a tour of the National Museum of Cambodia, which houses treasures of Khmer art and craftsmanship, and displays art that predates the mighty empire and really tells the true story of Cambodia. After lunch, we pay a visit to the sobering memorial on the Tuol Sleng Detention Centre, the former high school in which thousands of victims of the Khmer Rouge died, and also the killing fields of Chuang Ek. If you prefer, you may discover the city's maze of small alleys, markets and busy streets on your own. And tonight, you'll enjoy a local folklore performance during dinner. This morning's excursion on day 9 takes you through the Cambodian village of Kampong Tralak. Now, Kampong literally means village or settlement. Afterwards, take a short ride to the Udon Monastery where you'll receive a blessing by the monks, then continue on to a neighbouring village which is famous for its silversmiths. Now, your afternoon is free to explore Phnom Penh's historic riverfront with its restaurants, art galleries and silk shops, or perhaps visit the distinctive central market or the Russian market where you can buy jewellery, clothes and souvenirs. You might prefer to visit more of the city's monastery temples, Wat Lang Ka, Wat Botum or Wat Ko. Each has its own special character. Now, you'll hear the name Wat quite a few times, and that translates as temple. Later this afternoon, when back on board and before dinner, you enjoy an onboard presentation about recent Cambodian history by a local historian. You're now 10 days in, and it's time for a relaxing, easy day on board your ship as we sail down the Mekong towards the Vietnamese border. Now, after several days of sightseeing, now's the time to sit on the sun deck and watch the world go by, or head to the spa and indulge in a treatment, maybe grab a drink and discover all about the local area that you're sailing through. This journey is all about discovery, learning and experiencing a unique way of life. And the best way to see the real Cambodia and Vietnam is from the river. The rice fields, for example. The Khmer Empire was founded on a rice surplus, and rice is still the main staple of the Vietnamese cuisine. Before dinner and an onboard movie screening, as the sun sets, enjoy a cocktail at the open-air Sky Bar. The movie tonight is the 2002 film The Quiet American, based on the Graham Greene novel set in 1952 Saigon and starring Sir Michael Caine. This cruise is all about life along the river. You're passing places that are sometimes inaccessible or difficult to get to by any other form of transport. My advice is to get up early and watch some spectacular sunrises, hear the noises from the cockerels crowing in the distance, and in the evening, sit on deck, grab a drink, and reflect on the extraordinary stories you've heard and the sights that you've seen so far. It's day 11 and you've arrived in Tan Chau, where you'll get a rare glimpse of rural life as it's been lived for centuries. The morning starts with a ride in a traditional rickshaw around the local area, and afterwards you'll visit a floating fish farm by wooden sampan, then take a boat ride to Vinh Hoa, which is known as Evergreen Island, and here you can take a short walk to see various methods of traditional Vietnamese fishing firsthand. It's day 12 and we arrive in Sa Đéc. It's a really interesting French colonial river port, and it's an agricultural trading centre. It was once one of the Mekong Delta's largest cities. Today, it's a laid-back town of tree-lined streets, old villas and colourful markets. We board a sampan, which the best way to describe it is a flat-bottomed wooden boat, and we explore the backwaters and canals of the Delta, and it gives you a real insight into local life. And you also get to see some of the local industries in the area with a visit to the brick factory. A must in Sa Đéc is to see the house of Mr. Nguyen Thuy Le, the protagonist and best-selling author Marguerite Duras's novel, The Lover. After lunch, we visit the colourful floating market of Kai Be, where you'll see local workers producing rice noodles, coconut candy, and lots of other handmade products. It's day 13 and we bid farewell to your ship this morning as your sailing comes to an end. Now, we disembark the ship in My Tho, and it's a busy river port approximately an hour and a half from Ho Chi Minh City. On your way to Ho Chi Minh City, you'll tour the Chu Chi tunnels. Now, these once secret tunnels were used as supply routes, hospitals and living quarters by the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War. These are remarkable tunnels, and some of them are so tight to contemplate even moving around in. Upon arrival in the city, you'll check into your hotel for a 2-night stay, and the hotel we currently use is in the city centre with lots of shops and restaurants and cafes nearby, so you can then spend the rest of the day at leisure exploring and getting acquainted to Ho Chi Minh at your own pace. From when I first visited Ho Chi Minh in the 1990s to when I went back a few years ago, the old town and markets still remain the same, but the city's been transformed into Southeast Asia's powerhouse with tall glass buildings, designer shops and large shopping centres. You'll notice quite a contrast to Hanoi, which is much more laid back, and Siem Reap, which really seems positively village-like. But one thing Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City do have in common are these motorbikes, and thousands of them. So crossing the road can be a bit of a challenge, but where there's a will, there's a way. And it all adds to the uniqueness and excitement of this fascinating city. Now, Ho Chi Minh City, formerly known as Saigon, is the biggest and most cosmopolitan city in southern Vietnam. And you can really see the French influence with the colonial architecture, and you get a real feel for the energy that the city gives off, especially when you're enjoying your dinner this evening in a local restaurant. It's our penultimate day in Ho Chi Minh City, and after breakfast we'll begin another full day tour visiting the historic centre. You'll take a stroll along Dong Khoi Street, and Dong Khoi Street is one of the main shopping boulevards in the old colonial heart. You'll see the Grand City Hall, Reunification Palace, the old Opera House with its soaring arched entryway, the Chinatown area and the lacquer factory, and you'll complete your tour at Ben Tang Market. And now the rest of your afternoon is free, so you can go out independently and explore the city's neighbourhoods and Parisian-style boulevards. Or you can do a last-minute bit of shopping at the local markets before this evening's final dinner at a local restaurant. All good things come to an end, and here we are on day 15. After breakfast, it's time to say goodbye. So when you're on your way back home, and for all of us it's a fairly long flight from Southeast Asia, you'll be thinking about what you've just experienced. One of the most enriching journeys in the world. The food, the people, the history, the culture, the sights and sounds, and the most amazing sunrises and sunsets you'll ever see. It's a journey that will have you wanting to visit this part of the world for many, many years to come. Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that presentation and it gave you a bit of an insight into our magnificent Mekong itinerary and the spectacular Viking Saigon. So I'll do my best now to answer as many questions as possible. Anything that I can't answer, we'll certainly do our best to answer them off screen and get back to you. But as I said, we've got Bree over in Los Angeles that's going to be filtering through and asking the questions. So over to Bree.
Hi, Neil. Thank you so much. Happy to ask some questions on behalf of the guests. Our first question comes from Linda in Los Angeles, actually. She asks, do the locals speak English and is it easy to get around, i.e. are the street signs translated typically?
Hi, Linda. Thanks very much for that question. It is very easy to get around in the bigger cities. So, for example, in well, you know, first of all, if you look at the big cities in Vietnam, if you look at Hanoi and if you look at Saigon, there are so many motorbikes that actually crossing the road can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. But the road signs they're in local language and they are in English as well in the bigger cities. So it's easy to get around that way. If you're ever getting in a taxi, always negotiate the price before you get into a taxi if you're going anywhere. And likewise, if you're getting a cycle or a tuk-tuk, so one of the local modes of transport, make sure that you sort of negotiate the price before you get in there as well. But they're easily available and easy to get around. And in Siem Reap in Cambodia, it's a much calmer pace of life. And the most frequently form of transport over there is the tuk-tuk, actually, where you can get, you know, from the hotel in Siem Reap that we use the Sofitel into the centre of town for around $3. Lots and lots of traffic, but everything seems to work, and you do seem to get everywhere in, you know, sort of in the time that you want to get there. There never seems to be sort of any big delays in traffic. And if you're having a stopover in Bangkok, for example, on the way out there, there's a fantastic metro system which is sort of came on really in the last few years, and that'll get you around. Bangkok used to be notorious for traffic jams, but this new metro system, rapid metro system, has managed to get you around the city in record speed. So to answer your question, taxis, cyclos, tuk-tuks to get around, negotiate the price. signposting is in local language and in English, you know, your Viking tour guides can help you along the way from getting from A to B.
Very helpful, Neil. Thank you. A couple of questions about general sailing season for this itinerary. Eva in Miami Beach asks, when are these cruises and where are they sailing from? And Ingrid in San Francisco asks, weather-wise, what's the best time to be on the water?
Thanks, Eva. Thanks, Ingrid. So the only time of year that we don't actually operate in the Mekong is really sort of July, August time. But, you know, in fair, well, July to sort of the beginning of August, really. I've been over to Southeast Asia in August, and it's actually quite a nice time of year to go. It can be blazing hot sunshine, and you also get some sharp showers. So from a weather point of view, as I sort of mentioned in the presentation, if you go to the north of Vietnam, the winters can actually be a little bit cooler. So you will need a jumper or a cardigan in the evening to keep warm. Whereas in the south of Vietnam and in Cambodia, it can be record temperatures, you know, certainly up in the 80s. So spring, sort of March, April is quite a nice time to go. But really, any time that we operate is a good time to go, just pack in layers. So always, you know, first of all, pack your sunscreen, because, you know, the sun can be extremely hot, as I've certainly found out with my fair skin. So take a high protection factor sunscreen with you to start off with. But as I said, November sort of through to February, March in the north of Vietnam, slightly cooler, temperature in the low 60s, which is around, well, maybe can be around 16 to 18 degrees. So that's 32, is about 62 degrees Fahrenheit. Much hotter, much more humid in the summer, but you do get some sort of short, sharp showers, sort of weather-wise. And in terms of actually where the cruises start, so, you know, you can start off in the north, you can start off in Hanoi, or you can start off in Ho Chi Minh, and then Siem Reap is the destination in the middle that you sail to. But Siem Reap, it's around about a 4-hour transfer to the where you board the ship, and in Vietnam it's around sort of an hour and a half to board it. So you don't dock right in the heart of the city, you are that little bit further out, but all your transfers and everything are included to the ship. So it's very easily accessible, and as I said, weather-wise, winter months in the north, slightly cooler every other time, warm, sunny, high temperatures, but you get some rainfall as well.
Thank you. We have a few questions about the onboard experience in the ship. James asks, we're interested in this trip and wonder how dining is handled on board. Are all meal times reserved in advance?
The river ship in the Mekong, it runs similarly to the long ships over in Europe, actually, where there's no reserved seating for dinner. Generally, it's one mealtime, one evening mealtime that you'll have in the main restaurant. On the Viking Mekong ship, so similar to the Aquavit terrace that you'll get on the river ships in Europe, we have the Sky Bar, and in the Sky Bar you can have breakfast and light lunches there, as well as eating in the main restaurant. So there's a couple of different dining options, with the main evening meal taken in the main restaurant, but there's no reservations required in advance for that. It's just you know, the 3 meals served at a certain time on board the ship, and you'll just turn up and sort of, you know, be seated with certainly people on board. There's only 80 guests on board the ship, so it's quite a small, intimate experience. But yeah, a couple of different options on the Mekong ship.
Lovely, thank you. A question from Serena in Houston, who asks, we always look forward to trying local cuisine while traveling with Viking, although we did want to ask, in addition to local cuisine, are there other options for those of us traveling from the US?
Thanks, Serena. Yes, there are. So you will have the local options available, whether that's Vietnamese or Cambodian, but you'll also have sort of US classics and firm favourites available, like you get on board the river ships. so there's no problem there at all. And also bear in mind that when you're in the hotels, so remember on this itinerary, you go to Hanoi, you go to Siem Reap, and you go to Ho Chi Minh City, and it's all 5-star deluxe international hotels that have got varied menus, so you can pick and choose really what you eat. So you can try local, or you can try some international favorites there as well. So absolutely no problem at all with cuisine. Definitely try the local cuisine. Like I mentioned in the presentation, for me, you know, fish amok in Cambodia is a classic dish. If you're stopping over in Thailand, try tom yum soup, which is your really spicy prawn soup. And in Vietnam, as Karina was pointing out on the video there with Chi, the spring rolls are a must-have, and these sort of fresh spring rolls rather than the fried spring rolls are definitely classics that you must try. But local US favourites are always available as well.
Sounds lovely, thank you. Some general questions about our tours offered on shore. Jamie Ard asks, do we need to choose different shore excursions? And then Stephen asks, given that there are about 16 included excursions on this itinerary, how many optional excursions are typically available at port and at the hotel extension?
Yeah. Thanks both. Well, the great thing is on this itinerary that basically all your excursions are included, so you don't really have to bother about any optionals, because there's not really any optionals available. And when you're in the city stays, sometimes there are you know, different things that you can do. But generally on this itinerary, you know, if you take, you know, Hanoi for an example, you know, you've got a couple of different excursions. Give you an example, you would have your city tour, which is about a 5-hour city tour included, which will take you around the highlights of Hanoi. And then on the next day, you've got Hanoi by electric car. So there's a few different options that you can take, but it's all in there. So there's not really any optional excursions that you can book in advance or book when you're on. And that's the beauty of the Vietnam product. It is but as far as excursions are included, it's an all-inclusive product. So you can really budget for everything in advance of travel.
Thank you. A question that you may or may not be able to answer, Neil, from Stephen in the US, who
Probably
asks,
not, but I'll give it a go.
all right, he asks, can you tell us why the monks wear orange?
I don't know the answer to that, I'm afraid. Maybe there's somebody watching that will know that question, but I can't answer that, I'm afraid. I feel quite bad that I can't, but it's not one that I can give you an answer to, I'm afraid. But I'm sure somebody behind the scenes will know that answer, and we can certainly try and find out for you. But I can't give you a definitive answer on that, I'm afraid.
Certainly an answer they could get while touring the country on this itinerary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the local guides are phenomenal, and the Viking guides that really stay with you from start to finish on this tour can answer, you know, any questions, you know, about the local area. You should have tried to prep me on that, Brie, and I might have been able to find out the answer. But I can't answer that one, I'm afraid.
My apologies, Neil. Ingrid in San Francisco has additional questions. She asks, do you have shorter versions as a first timer of the river sailings? She also asks, can it get rough on the water there?
Thanks, Ingrid. Don't worry about being rough because you're on the river. There's no problem there at all. And you can't do a shorter version. So it's a 7-night river cruise that we operate with your land stays, but you can't split that out. So it would have to be the whole experience. If you are going to that part of the world, you do want to experience everything. So if you can, and if you have got the time to do longer than, say, a 7-night itinerary, please, you know, consider Viking and consider this itinerary, because you do get the whole experience by doing river and land, but you can't break it out. The shortest river cruise that we do would be in Europe, where you would be doing one of the classic rivers on one of our long ships. But over in Asia, it would be the 15-day experience that you would have to take there, Ingrid.
Thank you. Speaking of the ship, Lance in Columbus asks, you mentioned the ship was new. How long has it been sailing? And is it similar to the river ships we've experienced while traveling through Europe?
Yeah, thanks, Lance. So this ship launched earlier this year, and so it's 2022. It was, from recollection, it was the end of July was the I think the first sailing on Viking Saigon. And the great thing about this ship is that it is the Viking experience in terms of the look and feel. So there are sort of classic Southeast Asian touches, you know, sort of a lot of the wood. We've got a small spa on board. We've got a small fitness centre. You've got the Sky Bar, which has got outdoor seating, where, as I mentioned, you can have your breakfast and lunch, but you can also have a cocktail in the evening there if you want and watch the rivers going by. But the actual makeup of the staterooms is virtually identical to the longships. So you've got your French balconies, and we have got 26 French balconies on board the Viking Saigon. We've got 12 veranda staterooms, so that's with your full veranda, and then we've got 2 explorer suites. Like I say to anybody that goes on any river cruise or any ocean, well, more river cruise, you want to be on top deck. You want to be up in the Sky Bar to see what's happening on either side of the river, because that's the real experience that you'll get. But the look and feel has got a definite Scandinavian touch to it in terms of the decor, both in the staterooms and in the public areas. But you've got a bit of a sort of Southeast Asian twist there. So like all our ships, whether your expedition, your ocean, or you're one of the classic river cruises, or the Mekong, or the Mississippi, actually, you've got that very familiar, homely Scandinavian Viking feel.
Thank you. An additional question from Ingrid in San Francisco, who asks, how many guests to onboard personnel per guest can we expect?
Yeah, Ingrid, we've got 80 guests on board, and we've got 35 crew. So it's more or less sort of 2 to 1, I suppose, if you look at it that way.
Lovely, thank you. Ingrid also asked, final question from Ingrid, how do you select the hotels for the pre and post extension on this itinerary?
Yeah, so there are a lot of the hotels we've been using for a number of years, and it's international standards. So at the moment, and it's all subject to change, in Ho Chi Minh City we use the Sheraton, and which is very, very central. You're in the sort of, you know, the main business area, but you've got local markets and shops nearby. In Siem Reap, it's the Sofitel, which is sort of in between Angkor Wat and sort of the main town of Siem Reap. Again, international 5-star, more of a resort hotel, got a huge pool, so you can really relax there after you've had a day at Angkor Wat. And in Hanoi, we use the Lotte Hotel, which again is an international 5-star standard. But they're selected by our ground operations team, who are based in Vietnam, who know the area intricately, and they pick the hotels which are right for the Viking guests. So they are superior. The standards of hotel in Asia are absolutely phenomenal. If you've never been over to Asia, you're really in for a treat, because they're great standards, fantastic service, and they're all in central locations.
Thank you. Marjorie in the US asks, how safe is it to walk around in the various areas?
Thanks, Marjorie. It's whenever I've been over in Asia, I've always, it's like any city or any country in the world, just, you know, be aware of your surroundings. You know, so make sure that if you've got a handbag or a purse or bag with you, that it's not on display. You know, it's taking simple precautions. Like any city, don't walk about with, you know, sort of lots of jewels on or things like that. But in terms of, first, you know, the people are so hospitable, certainly over in that part of the world in Southeast Asia. But I felt really safe actually in the big cities. When when you're sort of out of town and you're in the sort of smaller towns, you're generally with the Viking group anyway. But in terms of sort of sticking to the main sort of, you know, tourist thoroughfares, if you like, it's very safe. Certainly the times I've been over there, and guests that I've spoken to have always felt at ease. But remember, you've got a Viking guide with you at all times. So, you know, if you've got your included excursions, so you're with the group. So if, you know, you're sort of, you know, you're with Viking every step of the way. But if you want to go off the beaten track a little bit independently, then your Viking guide can advise you of maybe the areas to go to and the areas not to. But general safety's actually been certainly no problem at all in my experience.
Thank you. Gary in Tucson asks, is it recommended to use the local currency, or are US dollars accepted and/or preferred?
Thanks, Gary. So again, whenever I've been over to Vietnam or Cambodia, I take US dollars. In Vietnam, it's the dong is the local currency, but US dollars is widely accepted. Small denominations, so ones, fives, tens, 20s. I wouldn't really go above $20 bills. And they've got to be really sort of, in Cambodia and Vietnam, crisp, clean dollars. So if they're ripped in any way, if they've got writing on them, you know, if you've got a dollar bill that's been sellotaped, like we do in the UK, if, you know, a note's ripped, then we'll put a bit of sellotape around them. Generally, they won't accept them and they'll be worthless. So crisp, clean dollar bills is the best way to go. But remember, credit cards are also accepted in all the major cities. So Siem Reap, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, and all the department stores and major retailers, then the credit cards are more than accepted. I think that's I mean, excuse me, I first went over to Vietnam, it must be about 25 years ago or something. I went over, and the infrastructure was really just in the start, and there wasn't a lot of shops and restaurants and cafes. And then you go back several times over the years, and I was last there in about 2019, and it has just completely changed. You've got, you know, luxury, you know, shopping malls with all your sort of well-known designer brands there. It's, you know, so sophisticated, but you've still got the local culture and the local markets and everything sort of going hand in hand with the new structures. So yeah, so there's plenty of places to spend your money, is what I'm trying to say. But when you go to the local markets, then cash is the king, and dollar bills are certainly key for that.
Very good. We actually have a couple of comments in regard to our question about why the monks wear orange. And thank you to Marie and Martha for chiming in, who shared that some say the color dye was the only one available at the time. Others say orange is a color representing wisdom, strength, and dignity. Martha shares that it represents fire and purity. So pretty interesting.
Well, very good.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. Thanks for that, both.
A question from Marjorie in the United States, who asks, how much time would there be to visit the Ta Prohm in the Jungle Temple?
I'm going to have to refer to my notes on that. Yes, because you visit Banti Shree as well, which is one of my favourites. 4.5 hours. Got 4.5 hours on that one, which is actually is you know, enough time to really get around it with your guide and have some time to wander around on your own. So yeah, actually, as long as it's near just under 5 hours you've got there, actually. Yeah.
Thank you. A question about transportation. Linda in Los Angeles asks, do they have Grab system? How about Uber or Lyft or something similar?
Something similar, and I can't exactly. Actually, when I was in Siem Reap, I mean, you know, one of the sort of, you know, one of the most famous apps for taxis never worked out in Siem Reap. I've never actually tried it in other cities, but I know in various countries in Asia and throughout the world, they have a or similar. So it may not be one of the main taxi providers, but they do have something similar. And you will find that in, certainly, I think in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. But you know, your local taxis, as long as they're registered taxis, are absolutely fine, and they've just said, negotiate the price before you get in, and generally you'll still pay in dollars. Sometimes your change is actually in the local currency, and in Siem Reap it was always tuk-tuk. I mean, there's just hundreds of them everywhere, but you have got the mini cabs as well. But in terms of the apps for hailing a taxi, you'd probably have to check with whoever you're sort of registered with to see if they've got a subsidiary over in the country that you're visiting. And this is only really the main cities that you need anything like that. When you're sort of on the on the river and you're stopping at the small towns and villages, they've not got really a lot of infrastructure there, so you will be with your local guide and doing the excursions on a daily basis.
Thank you. JP in the United States asks, are there a variety of vegetarian and/or fish options at dinner?
Thanks, JP. Yes, you'll be well catered for. Remember and tell certainly reservations department in advance that what your dietary needs are, and we'll accommodate them. But certainly fish is one, and vegetarian food is sort of the staple diet over there. You'll have absolutely no problems whatsoever catering for vegetarian meals over in Southeast Asia. So you'll be absolutely fine. But when you're booking, just let the reservations team know in advance. You can put a note in your booking so that they can be assured that you'll be catered for on board the ship. But you will be absolutely fine on that.
Thank you. Marie in the US asks, is tipping expected in Southeast Asia? If so, what is the typical percentage?
Thanks, Maria. I suppose like anywhere, it's always optional and well, I suppose maybe outside the States it's optional and not expected, but certainly in Southeast Asia, there's not really a percentage as such, but I'd say if you were getting your luggage transferred to your room, you're maybe tipping a couple of dollars or so. If you're having a meal in a restaurant, I'd say maybe 10% would be about an average sort of gratuity. Yeah, it's just down to your discretion and how you feel the service is and what's warranted. But I'd say 10% would probably be quite a rounded figure that you can maybe sort of base your guesstimates on, really.
Very good, thank you. Diane in the United States shares that she's booked on the Mekong Delta 10-hour excursion on the World Cruise sailing in February. The port is in Ho Chi Minh. What can we expect to see and experience there?
In Ho Chi Minh, you'll just have the time of your life, basically in Ho Chi Minh. It's the vibrancy, it's the history, it's the culture, it's the thousands and thousands of motorbikes. It's the whole buzz that you're going to get in Ho Chi Minh. And I don't know on that one if you go out to the Chu Chi tunnels or not. That's certainly a fantastic excursion that you can do. I don't know if it's included in the one that you're on, but certainly you do it when you're on the Magnificent Mekong trip. You've got Dong Khoi Street in Ho Chi Minh, which is the sort of main sort of big shopping thoroughfare, where you've got a lot of your street vendors and local markets, as well as your high-end shops. But yeah, I mean that gives you a good taste of Ho Chi Minh, the 7-hour itinerary. You are docked slightly further out of Ho Chi Minh from recollection, the ocean ships. But it'll give you sort of a sense of the sights and sounds of the city. I don't exactly know what's included in that excursion actually, but for 7 hours it'll be certainly fairly comprehensive, and I'd imagine you'll visit some of the museums as well to give you a bit of an insight into sort of the Vietnamese certainly way of life on that one.
Lovely.
You can get more information. You might have had your pack through actually on the excursions, and if not, you can always request that maybe from the call centre. Give them a call and they can send you out exactly what's included. But in terms of a snapshot of Ho Chi Minh, you will definitely get great value for money out of that one.
Thank you. Jane in the United Kingdom shares that she's never been on a Viking cruise before, but has one booked for next year. She does not mention which ship she's sailing on, but asks, do you have a doctor on board in case of ill health?
On our ocean ships, we've got a doctor on board. On the rivers, we dock. If there's a medical emergency or somebody needs to see a doctor, then we just call in at the next town along the way and sort of call in a doctor or a medical professional there.
Thank you. Philippa in the United Kingdom asks, how easy is it to get the required visa, and how long in advance is it recommended that we apply?
Thanks, Philippa. So Philippa, was in the US or the UK?
The UK.
UK. Right, depending where you are in the world, there's actually different rules on visas at the moment. And in the UK, and I can only speak as of now, which is the 16th of November at 8 p.m. UK time, because it could change at any minute. But there is a very sort of relaxed visa rule for Vietnam for UK citizens, and information will be sent out on before you go. So, you know, at this time, it's only Cambodia that would require a UK guest to get a visa, but that can change all the time. But the actual process of getting a visa, if you do require one, is so simple. And in the States, in the UK, in Canada and Australia, we have visa agencies that we work with that can do the visas on your behalf. So there's not an issue. It's a very, very simple process in obtaining visas, but the rules are so different for each country. But as I said, we send out before you go information, and that will give you all the details on visas. Or if you go onto Viking.com and go to the Magnificent Mekong page, and then go under the resources tab, that will tell you information that is current at this time of what visa information and the processes that we use in order to certainly obtain visas. So have a look at that under the resources tab. Or in the UK, if you go into the FCO website, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office website, and type in the country that you're visiting, that will tell you the whole process as well. It's really difficult because it's, you know, I can comment on what the visa situation is now, but things change, you know, sometimes hour by hour in various countries. So I don't really want to say too much about how the process is, but if you have a look at the resources tab, that will give you a better indication, regardless of where in the world you are, about the process of obtaining visas.
Thank you for clearing that up. Finally, we have a few questions from several guests about pricing. Terrell, Frank, Didio in the United States and Canada all ask about the pricing of this itinerary and where that information can be found. And then Martha in the US asks if there are military discounts.
Thanks for the question. First of all, there's no military discounts. Well, we don't have any in the UK. I'm not sure about the US. So you maybe have to check with the contact centre for that. But in terms of pricing bills, so if you go into Viking.com, it's a global website, and the pricing is all for the local market. We have a price and build section, which is online booking on our website. So yeah, it is a phenomenal website, I have to say. You know, it's one of the easiest websites to use. It gives you all the information about the itinerary, about the ships, about the deck plan. There's so many videos on there as well, detailing, you know, what the destination that you're going to. Click on dates and pricing, arrow down to the date that you want, give it a click, and that will show you the pricing for the grade that you're interested in. Then if you wanted to take it a stage further, you can also go into price and build. And the price and build section is online booking, but you can actually get a comprehensive quote there, including certainly, you know, sort of Viking Air, pick your cabin, etc. And that will give you the up-to-date pricing. And the website is live, so the availability that's there at the moment is, you know, whether it's live on the website, it's live in the call centre. But as I said, click the destination, click on dates and pricing, pick your cabin grade, And if you want to go into price and build, then you can get a comprehensive quote for that. Yeah. Just in terms of pricing, the sort of keenest pricing, so the some of the most reasonable pricing is towards the end of July. So it's that July-August period, which I have actually found a really, really good time to go. Temperatures can be quite extreme. They can be really, really warm towards the end of July into August, but you do get some sort of short, sharp showers. But in terms of pricing, it's quite keen in the sort of end of July, August period. But double check the Viking.com website, dates and pricing, or price and build, and it can give you the up-to-date information.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments to close us out. Bharat and Sintra from Toronto share that they would love to go on this itinerary. And Mary in Atlanta shares that she has friends going on this cruise and is excited and appreciative of this presentation. So thank you very much, Neil.
No problem. Thank you very much for everybody that sent the questions through. If we've been able to, answer any, then we'll certainly get back to you. Keep tuning into Viking.TV for more Wanderlust Wednesdays, but any information on this itinerary, go on to Viking.com. It's really comprehensive. As I said, lots of videos. You can check out the pricing there. And yeah, we hope to see you on board very, very soon. And Viking.TV, thanks for having me. I'll maybe see you again in the future. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your day or your evening. Thank you very much.